All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very, very, very special episode of Big Time the Podcast. We thought last week was big, bringing video into it. We're going live right now. We're going live all across the internet, all across the world right now. And we got a very, very fun episode planned for you guys tonight. Last week, we did a fantasy basketball draft for 4Kent Local Legends. It was a bit of a niche episode. We wanted to expand upon that. So we got the same cast of guys back along with one very, very special guest. Tonight's episode, we are doing a Fort Kent High School fantasy soccer draft with the same cast as last week. And I mentioned our very special guest. And we got Fort Kent soccer coach legend Dave Minzy joining us on the podcast as well for tonight's episode. So we're gonna kick off with Coach Minzy. Coach, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. Things have been going great. And it's a pleasure to be here with you guys.
I know all these guys are fired up and happy to have you on here. These are all guys that played for you. So we're just going to introduce our cast of characters for tonight as well. Once again, back, I think it is third or fourth appearance now. We got Laughn Berthiaume checking in from Gorham. Laughn, how are you tonight?
Great. Glad to be back.
Lucas making his third appearance. Lucas, how are things in Georgia?
Can't complain. It was 80 degrees today and enjoying the time off.
I was going to say, you got a nice tan. You're the one guy with a tan in this group. We got from Scarborough. We got one of the executive producers of the show. We got Ethan Raymond checking in. Ethan, how are you tonight?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
And we saved the best for last, the original big timer, the reason why the show's called Big Time. Dressed and ready to go all the way out from Halifax, Nova Scotia. We got Coach Charlie. Charlie, how are you doing tonight?
What's going on, world? I apologize if I say anything unprofessional. It's just how I roll. No holds barred. Let's have some fun.
Real quick, what's with the suit?
I thought this was we're going professional on this one. Everyone else went casual, but that's not how I roll. My name's Ben.
Right. Good to know. All right, so as we mentioned, Coach Minzy actually coached all these guys here, but this is his first time on the podcast. He's a name that's come up very, very frequently in terms of someone we'd love to get on. So real quick, we're just going to chop it up with Coach Minzy real quick and get some background here. So you coached all these guys. Real quickly, when did you actually begin your coaching career? And was Fort Kent your first head coaching gig?
Yeah, absolutely. I started teaching in Fort Kent in 1980. And I assisted the other varsity coach, Terry Carpenter, who had coached there for approximately 30 years. So I started under him probably in 85 and took over as head coach in 87 and coached all the way up until 2003. So I've had a large cast of all of you guys, all of you players. But over the years, I've been fortunate to have a lot of players come through, and they're all over the place now, all over the country.
Absolutely. As highlighted on this podcast, we got these guys spread out all over the place. So one of the first things I want to do here before we actually get into the draft and get into tonight's episode, I want you to give me your opinion or your take on all these former players here. So real quick, what can you tell us about Laughn Berthiaume as a player, his style? What's the rundown on Laughn?
Well, Lonnie was probably my one and only All-American. He was, I think, in his senior year, he was closing in on the scoring leader. He had the most goals, also had probably the most minutes, and not only had he made accolades in All-State, all New England, but he was, if I'm correct, he was like one vote away from being the All-American that year. So probably one of the highest players that we've had come out of Fort Kent.
Was he coachable? I mean, did all those things go to his head? Or
it definitely went to his head. Yeah. You had to take him out of the game every once in a while just to let him know that he was normal.
Probably would have been All-American if Coach Minzy would have voted for him. But.
Yeah, that was the one vote. That was, by the way, the one vote that didn't get him the All-American. But
all right. So Lonnie was class of 94, and then we got Lucas here, class of 97. What's the take on Lucas here?
Lucas, probably a lot of people don't know that his nickname is Levesque, and got the winning goal down at Foxcroft, and came out in the paper the very next day that Levesque won the game. But Lucas was
Levesque,
again,
Levesque.
a scoring threat, and he always was one of the top players, captain from all those years. Very, very good player.
All right.
He led
Does
the
that sound
league
right,
in
Lucas?
being
Is that
called
pretty accurate?
offsides too.
What's that?
He led the league in being called offsides too.
Called offside. Yeah, that's right.
All right.
He had that down pat.
Cherry
Any
picking.
any
Oh,
defense there, Lucas? You want to defend yourself, or is that accurate?
No, I was the granddaddy of them all, cherry picker. I was allergic to defense, high school, college, the whole 9 yards.
All right.
So, yeah, no, I ain't disputing that.
And then we're gonna keep it rolling here in chronological order. Then we got Charlito, class of 2001, who was the king of the offsides trap, right, Charles?
That is correct. It's a lethal weapon.
So, Coach Minz, what's your take on Charlie?
Charlie Bard, probably without a question, I've said this before and I'll say it again, is probably my best sweeper back that I've ever coached. He not only knowledgeable wise, he had everything down as far as we used to run offsides traps. That's when it was really, really big and in the league to run traps, and Charlie had his group ready to go and always did the right thing. So very skilled, and he could play forward, he could play back, but it was always a best thing to have him play back because I always knew that things were locked down back there and things were pretty sure. And he worked very well with the goalkeeper also. So things went very well with Charlie in the backfield.
And you might not know it now with the head of hair Charlie has now, but Charles had a full head of hair in high school. Did that bother you at all? Charlie's flamboyant blonde locks back in the day. Was that an issue, or are you okay with that?
Valderrama style.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. It's kind of a hard comparison now, isn't it?
All right.
Hey, you can't forget that Charlie is the only guy we've ever seen score off a corner kick in a game, high school game.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Max right there. All right, so
Unreal.
then moving on to our last guy on the panel here, class of 2004, the pride of Wallagrass, Maine. What's your take on Ethan here?
Well, Ethan was a great protege. He started early, came through the feeder program as probably one of the better players. Started going to camps at an early age, doing very well at Colby, and did extremely well there, and became probably one of the better players that we've had. Came through. We came through with a few good players that were in his league, but he was a leader for sure, and was always a scoring threat up front. So it was. I actually put him down as one of my best players on my fantasy team just because of his caliber of play.
Wow, Ethan, how does that make you feel
Wow.
right there?
I'm honored. Appreciate that, man.
All right,
I must be
so
his fantasy Wallagrass team.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. The all strip road team.
yeah. So before we get into our draft here, we're just going to go over the rules here. So we are going to try to keep it simple here. We're going to try to keep things calm and collective. Just a few rules. So what we're going to do here is for the first 6 picks, and guys, I'm not really a soccer guy here. I'm going to admit it. There's 11 players on the field, including the goalie, right?
Right.
All right. So the first 6 picks are going to be made by players only from your era. So your freshman through senior year teams, you can only pick guys that you play with for your first 6 picks. Doesn't have to be based on position. You can just draft best available. But by the end of this draft, you need to have a player drafted at every position. There are a couple of you guys where you guys overlap by year. So if in the first 6 picks, if there is someone who is claimed by more than one person, we'll just have a coin flip to decide who gets that person. So first 6 picks should go really quick. And then after that, we're going to have a draft lottery. We're going to find out the draft order for the remaining 5. And those last 5 picks, you can draft anybody from any era. So that's when things are going to get interesting. And we got the man who coached all of them. We got Coach Minzy here, who's going to be our draft expert, give us some feedback on some of these picks, and maybe tell a story or two. So before we get into it, I just want to ask Coach Minz here, if you're building a team, what's your approach? Do you build around your defense? Do you build around a good goalkeeper? Do you want someone who can score the ball? What would be your approach in drafting a team here?
I always went from the back to the forward. So I always went goalkeeper first. and then my backs were always the next step in line. My midfield and forwards, I could always fill in because we had a lot of very talented, fast, and strong players. But the big thing was for me to always defend well. So I always went with goalkeeper backs. That was the very first thing for me to put together.
All right. So I see. I didn't see anyone jotting down notes. So it didn't look like you guys were taking some advice here. It sounds like you guys are ready to go. So how much research and time did you guys put into this? I'll start with Laughn. How much time and effort went into this right here?
Yeah, I had to get prepared. One of the things about the format of this is we sort of leave out the group before the 90s or before 1990, and then after 2003. And so I was on the horn this week, and I made a few phone calls. I talked to a few people, and I wanted to get some insight into those legends that came before the 90s.
All right, Lucas, how about you? What's your approach? How much research did you do? Did you make some phone calls, trades lined up? What are you thinking for this draft here?
Yeah, I just tried to dig in a little bit to the 80s, 70s, and 80s, really, to figure out who I might have missed or overlooked. So, I probably took about an hour to go through everything and reminisce about the good old days with my group, and then figure out the open draft era is going to be interesting. So I'm excited for it.
Real quick, how many of your teammates reached out to you saying, "Hey, pick me up, make me one of your draft picks"? How many guys reached out to you?
Dave Sussy blocked me for since I drafted Eric Gardner ahead of him in pickup basketball. So Dave's on my shit list a little bit, but for the most part, I'm still communicating now. Whether I still have friends after this draft, that will be determined at a later date.
All right. We'll keep moving in chronological order here based on years. Charles, you look serious. I mean, you're definitely dressed for the part. How much time and effort did you put into this here?
I got some surprises that are going to blow some minds here tonight. So I don't know if I should just expose it now. We're going to wait till it's my turn, but no matter how much work these guys put in, I'm going to one up here. But I'll just wait for my time to shine.
Anything, Charlie.
I think the biggest surprise here is that you didn't ask us to push this till 8. I know Jeopardy's on right now, and that's kind of your thing, so I'm a little bit surprised by that.
Getting too easy now there. I'm kind of maxed out.
Probably a rerun. He's already seen it.
Yeah. All right, and then Ethan, what's the thought process here for you? What are you thinking in terms of how you're going to build your team? How much research did you put into it? What's the strategy here?
Well, my era was pretty easy. We had some standouts, so I was able to fill up the front line pretty well, but struggled for the defensive portion. And I'm the furthest removed from some of these older squads, so it might have been a little more difficult for me to tap into that older demographic there. But luckily, I got a couple older brothers. Unfortunately, Eric spent most of the soccer season playing video games and computer games in his bedroom, so he didn't have much information for me. And Ben has had so many concussions that the ideas have pretty much been erased for him, so he didn't really have any calls. So we got names up my sleeve, so we're good to go.
Just information for you there, Ethan. Your brother was the first goalie to ever play with a helmet.
Probably the only one to play with a broken arm and a fractured skull too, but
right. That's exactly.
He's got a lot of
yeah.
The funny part is
facts.
All right, so we're going to get into our draft here. Like I said, your first 6 picks are going to be picks from your era. So we should be able to run through these fairly quickly. It's going to be interesting. So we're going to go oldest to youngest. So, Laughn, you get the privilege of going first here. So without further ado, Team Laughn, what's your
I was very fortunate to play with some great keepers all the way through, but this particular guy was a 3-sport athlete, a 3-sport teammate of mine, one of my great friends. I'm going Chad Bush.
goalie number 1?
Solid.
Coach Min's initial reaction with that pick right there, is that a solid number one pick?
Yeah, absolutely. Good, solid number one pick. Chad was nothing, but walking off the game just before we started the Eastern Maine semifinal game, he had his collarbone broken, walking off the field, going to a team supper. So it was unfortunate for him in his last season to have a broken collarbone, but he was definitely an outstanding goalkeeper.
All right. Lon, where are you going to go with your second pick here?
Second pick. I'm going to stay. I'll stay with a guy in the back. Guys that could mark anybody, but was going to score off corner kicks and just win all kinds of kind of those free balls. I'm going with Steve Jalbert.
Steve Jalbert. Someone was listening to Coach with the draft strategy. Let's see if you continue your third pick.
We're going to move up to the midfield. This next guy was an Iron Man.
Adrian Marquis.
Great
Coach,
pick.
after 3 picks, Coach, how you feeling about Lon's team so far here?
Well, Lonnie's picked probably the first 3-4 guys was the key player for flying headers during his season. He would on off corner kicks, take a beating and get up and finish. It was just a quality player. So that's a great pick. It was an awesome pick.
All right. Before we get to
Bangor Auditorium. So busted out the Fort Kent gear. I got a Fort Kent jersey hanging in the back. So I took out the Fort Kent gear for today.
I like it. All right. So halfway through your first set of picks, your number
and really kind of gave me one of the first great pieces of advice. So, and I was about 115, 120 pounds. And so I jumped up over and I just avoided that collision. And Tim Desjardins grabbed me by my shirt and he said, "Don't you ever jump over him again. Next time you kick him in the fucking head." And it was one of those that I just, and then later on, we had a 50-50 ball and he went in and he kicked the guy in the head. Whether good or bad, but I'm going Timmy Desjardins, one of the toughest players I played with.
Is that an accurate?
I also led our team with probably a multitude of cards, yellow and red mixed in, but it was just because of that. I mean, it was just his style, and it was just all guts.
Hey, Charles, when you worked for Tim at his store, did he give you the same advice to customers?
Dude, he was one of my first middle school coaches. He's been.
All right, Lon, your 5th pick. Who are you going with?
All right, so 5th pick. This guy wasn't a free kicks. He'd take our corner kicks. And you know what? He was one of my first teachers. I'm going with Big Brother Aaron Berthiaume.
Aaron Berthiaume, all right.
Teammate at Farmington. Teammate.
Your the last pick of your first six here. Who are you going to round out from your era?
Yeah, so I'm going back to a classmate of mine. This guy was sometimes he was a guy that could score, but another guy that could run all day, kind of like Adrian Marquis would. I'm going Ben Collins.
Based on Laughn's first six picks from that era, 90 to 93, in terms of soccer years, anyone he missed, or you pretty you in line with who he picked right there?
No, I'm right in line. A little quick story about Lonnie's brother. Aaron had the winning goal against Van Buren to keep the only truly undefeated season that we had. We went 16-0 and Aaron to win that game. So that was just a little depiction of how Aaron played. Of speed levels and just continue to play the minute he started to the minute he ended. And it was just his tribute to how he was a good player. So Lonnie made some really, really good picks here.
All right, and all week long. Is that what's going on here?
You know what?
Sounds like he's got some insider info
that's
here.
One of the things we didn't talk about is I didn't really ask him about
All right, we're gonna move on to Lucas here. So, class of '97. Charles
was able to analyze the game from the pretty well. He was able to analyze the game on the sideline.
All right, we're gonna get to that comes to mind.
Talking me?
Yeah.
The best story that I recall, the year Van Buren ended up winning the state title, and they were legit. They were pretty good, and I think we were up 2-0 off the field, and Mintz goes, "Get to the pool, get to the pool," and we're like, "Oh shit! Why are we walking all the way to the Mintz?" We sat there and took an ass chewing for whatever 10-12 minutes and got back. But that was one of those things where we were that was kind of the moral of the story is I don't care who we're playing, whether we're up by 2 or 5 or 10, we were doing what we needed to do, and Mins didn't think that we were playing as good as we should have, so he blistered us, but that was.
I mean, you went on and had a coaching career yourself, still doing it, and obviously when you coach, you kind of take things from coaches you had. Did you blister your female your girl team? Did you do that?
We'd walk out to the corner flags. So, but honestly, I mean, I wanted my coaching. Coach Minzy, I mean, I had more passion for soccer probably than I did basketball, but I'll be honest, I had some pretty lousy college coaches, and But Minz was the reason why I got into coaching. The reason why I got in, especially I'm very grateful to have the opportunity. I think everybody in this room is very grateful to be able to play for him. So, he made you a competitor, and then the thing is, hey, look, this is about getting better every day. This is about making sure that we're maximizing our potential, and we played some bad teams from time to time about what scores while you're playing. So there's a lot of good coaching moments and things that I learned from Coach Minzy.
You got 7 national championships to show for it. So, I mean, you learned something. But we'll see how well you can draft a fantasy soccer team. Who you got? Who you going with your pick? So your era would have been what? Your freshman year was 94, 97?
I'm not sure if I'm going to snag or not, but my first pick, probably one of the most underrated players. I think this guy could have been a fantastic college player had he choose to go and play overly physical, which is the exact opposite of what I am. So I learned at a pretty young age with a mouth like mine to make sure I surrounded myself with big, strong, tough guys. In the air, would push his mom down and stand over her if it gave him a competitive advantage. So he had a little bit of nastiness to him, a little bit of toughness to him with this group.
And Coach Minz, did you teach physical? Was physical something that you wanted your players to play, or did you just happen to have a bunch of tough guys?
No, I think our daily practices on winning 50-50 balls and not backing down and things like that. So I think a lot of that came from internal. Right? Obviously, they had the internal. That's something that if you either have it or you don't. You can't really teach that. If you have the ambition to do that, you do it. So in Brad's case, and smart. He wouldn't just take people out. He did a very good job of getting up and winning the ball first. So he was a good player.
One good story from Brad was our Scott one of our season, and I think it was probably like our sophomore year. I'm sure he's a decent guy, but he was an arrogant douche. I think he was 2 years old. The game, and he gets in his face, and again, this guy's 2 years older. Their best player. Next thing Brad's chasing him full speed ahead, like chasing him around the field. Come on, the referees are like running to try to break it up, but that was Brad's win.
Number 2 pick, where are you going?
Number 2, I'm going goalkeeper. Corey Tibbs. No disrespect to my boy Sean Ontario, but Corey was a great goalkeeper. He turned rock solid in goal. I know he stepped in when Chad got hurt, and as a young afraid. So he checked off all the boxes from a goalkeeper standpoint.
All right. Number 3 pick. Who are you going with?
Bart had a fantastic couple of years, I think, at Farmington as an outside back. And, with his size, But Bart was another one of those guys, just big, strong, tough, not afraid of anything. So he'll, I think he'll fit in nicely with the group and the style we want to play.
Number 4 pick who you got?
Number 4, Ryan Martin. Ryan was a very good player, scored a lot of goals. Year round, that could have been phenomenal. But even with his commitment to hoops and kind of balancing the two, Ryan was very will be a good choice.
All right, yeah, I want to get coach's opinion on that. So obviously we know Ryan Martin as a basketball player. What was he like as a soccer player?
Ryan was on he had a number of golden goals, a lot of overtime goals. He won many games for us. He had a flip throw that was probably unprecedented by anyone. He could throw the flip throw. And we used to score a lot of goals off of that because on a throw-in there's no offside, so we used to load the box and get everybody in there. Basketball was his love, but you never knew it by watching him play soccer, because he would play every game like that was his one and only sport, and it was just a tribute to his playability. So
you got 2 error draft. Who else are you gonna go with number 5?
Yeah, I'm going. I'm going tough guy again. I'm going Motor. This guy is not the team. He was a state championship wrestler. Had a phenomenal motor to him. I mean, nothing would face this guy. He's somebody who I'd probably put in the other side of which he did quite a bit. But Richard Plord was a very underrated player, and again, not against because he never quit and was tough as nails. So I'll take Richard Plord on my team for soccer, and if a fight breaks out any day of the week.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I sort of agree with the Richard Plord being a tough guy. He's actually the guy that broke Chad Minzy's collarbone.
That's very true. I didn't want to name drop, but that's exactly what happened.
Richard's so tough, he's going to hurt his own teammates.
In motion.
So, and it was an accident. He was just messing around, but you know what? Just didn't know his own strength.
That's
a fair point.
Lucas, you got one more pick here.
Yeah, so last one I debated back and forth. I'm going to go with John Levesque, but John had a little edge to him. He like myself, but John was pretty smooth in the box, could get behind defenses, and played with John, a athlete and a good teammate to be around. So I'll take John as my number 6.
Coach, just want to get your feedback on Lucas's pick. So Brad Saucier, Corey Tibbs, Bart Plord, Ryan Martin, Richard Plord, and John Lozier. Thoughts on that era?
Goalkeeping solid. A lot of speed up front. That's a great 6 pick right there. Absolutely. Really, yeah. Nice job.
Charlie.
98 to 2000 for soccer.
2001. One's my picks, and two, I'm just taking it to the next level in presentation. I'm going to go opposite with my sixth pick. I'm going with the speedster. We're going to go with Cody Daigle. With a little more fine tuning. I played with a lot of soccer players in my time, but this dude, not the average player, a little polishing, he would have been a high-level college player. Of course, he's doing big things these days, so can't knock that. But good teammate, good kid all around.
All right, let's keep moving. Number 5,
we're gonna go with Kirk Levesque.
Okay.
Lefty, probably one of the best benders I've ever seen. Put it around a wall. His right foot wasn't too strong, but lefty, the best left footer I ever played with. I can probably put that on the list. Top 3 best lefties I've ever played with, that's for sure.
And then I want to get one more of your picks here before we bring him in.
Next guy, holds up and he stays healthy, but Aaron Willett, the big O. Little bit of college. Close to these all-star teams. I want my number 1 homie by my side.
Coach Minzy, your take on Charlie's pick so far?
So far, that's he's got a huge amount of speed up front and really good skills. Kirk was a master of putting the ball on the floor and keeping it on the low corner, so that was really good. Cody just had a big recruit. A lot of colleges down here wanted him. St. Joe's came up to see him a couple of times, and there was too many people that could match up with him winning balls out of the air with his head. He scored a lot of goals and a lot of winning goals. One being against Van Buren at home when they were and took us to the playoffs that year with a heading ball. So he's a good player.
Ethan.
Shots fired.
Shots fired at Ethan.
Wow.
Ethan's gonna have his chance here. Ethan's gonna have his chance.
Everyone's got their opinion. That's all right.
Yeah. All right, Charles, your number 3 pick here. Who you got?
In high school and college. If I was ever in a mess, I'm a pretty solid player, but if anybody ever got under my skin,
Nice choice right there. Let's go ahead and see your number 2 pick here.
Number 2 pick is he and I played a lot of years together. Nobody has looked at my butt more than this fella, Nick Thibodeau.
And let's just go ahead and see who your last pick is in your era. Okay, so we have a conflict here. So we got to get this settled. So Lucas picked John, so did Charles. And you know what? I didn't grab a coin. Stand by for 1 second. We're gonna get this settled here.
Hey, let's just do the old men's. All I got a minute to. I got to give some love to Mins, by far the most knowledgeable coach I ever played on the field. There's not enough they deserve beyond knowledge of the game. I'd love to get into coaching and emulate your style, but there's nothing that I could do or even take away just because you provided us so much insight. It made me successful in my future years, but man, Thank you for everything.
Appreciate
Yes,
it.
sir.
So we got to settle the John Lozier argument here in a second, but before we do, I just want to get Minz's take on Charlie's era. So Charlie, your senior year, you guys finished number one in Class B. Some physical guys in your team. Minz, what do you remember about that squad, that era?
Absolutely right. I mean, but Charles probably ran 30 traps that day successfully, and they were just so frustrated. Scoring it was absolutely nobody's fault. So I remember that stands out in my mind because just so smart out of the backfield, and I mean you could tell Orono they were just frustrated and they would be beside themselves. That part of it was a big memory for me. But in his players that he picked, Robbie Neto had the winning goal with 3 seconds left to go in Holton. Drifted it and finished our season that way. So that was a snapshot of really good memories. And of course, John Lozier. And he's absolutely right. John Lozier, he was a Timmy DeJarre time. He played with a lot of hot-headedness, but it came through in his play. I mean, he would score 20 goals a season and became one of our best players. But he also had to watch it because he was sitting up to watch that.
I'm going to chime in real quick too. For those people who have never saw Robbie in high school, imagine him playing with all 10 fingers. How good he was back then. So,
he could throw it really good back then.
That reminded me of the time when Minz told our we had an awards banquet and Scott Rubbish. I remember I know our class still jokes about Scott Rubbish and having a good year for the game, but probably with all 10 fingers, he was pretty tough.
Yeah.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Charles and Lucas here. We're going to see who gets ready.
No, Charles, I'm going to go on.
Just in case. And I guess my replacement, no loss here. I'm going big Antoine Lamar.
That's a good pick.
Sorry, Ethan.
We're gonna have a couple.
I know. I got one more thing before we get going. The team name is going to be Styling and Profiling. That's the team name.
Styling and Profiling.
You can't Mojo.
Had your chance, buddy.
Come on.
All right, so now we got to get on to Ethan and his picks. And then it sounds like we have some more conflicts coming up.
The young guy in the totem pole here, because my opening there, man, I crossed out a lot of names. You guys chose some good names. And yeah, Charlie, we're gonna have to do a couple battles here.
All right.
So my first pick, because he's one of my best friends, still is, but probably not at the same time because he's just an unreal talent. We played together. It's like we could read each other's minds on the field, and this guy is just an unreal talent. He wore number 10 for a reason. Usually the best guy in the field wears number 10, and so did he. It's JJ Panett.
All right, that was my prediction right there. Let's see who your number 2 pick is.
Number 2, I'm going to go goalie. This guy, he, I mean, he's an unassuming guy. You look at him and you say, oh, he's not somebody that's going to just get from post to post. And he was unassumingly quick and just really savvy. It's my boy Derek Plord. Went on to be a great keeper at UMFK as well.
Let's just get your 3rd pick here before Randy moves in.
3rd pick might not be a very well-known name. This guy was unbelievable. We got this guy came. He's a Colombian foreign exchange student, and he came up senior year, and we absolutely dominated summer league games. This guy was just, I mean, most of the guys coming out of South America are on a soccer pitch, just from the get-go. But this guy was just an awesome player. Unreal handles. Martinez. He played a few games, and then I don't know, Minz, you might be able to chime in on why, but he had to get shut down to the JV team and absolutely humiliated some JV squads out there for the rest of the year. So.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We scored like 12 goals on the JV squad in one game. They realized they probably made a mistake. And the technical reason is that the Colombian in Mexico, if they had 3 years of high school and then they would graduate.
That's right.
They would come to U.S. and do that, which was all that was all fine, but under the MPA rules, they'd already graduated from their school. So that made them eligible to play varsity sports, which I thought was BS. I had him. It's funny you picked him, Ethan, because I had him down as one of my starting 11. This guy was incredible, and you remember that. I mean, his first day on the field, he was just really that good. And I had a good chance. I coached him when I was at UMFK. Charlie played with him, but he scored incredible goals at the college level that year. So yeah, really good player.
All right. So 4th pick, who do you got, Ethan?
4th pick. So I mean, we got a couple conflicts for the time period that I was in high school. I'd say top 2 best forwards in the whole school was his daughter, Megan Minzy. I almost wanted to put her in my front line, but
She was a top player.
Audio, Ethan. Might have lost Ethan. Ethan, you still there?
He might have hit his mute button.
Yeah. Ethan, can you hear me? So you picked Antoine at 4. Who's your 5th pick? We'll figure out the disputes afterwards. Who's your 5th pick?
5th pick was Cody. So this guy probably didn't belong on the soccer field. He was big enough to be a defensive lineman for any football. He was all over the pitch. He wasn't somebody that was super skilled from a footwork standpoint, but he's somebody that was just an enforcer and just scary to match up against. So I wouldn't want to match up with Corey Burgoyne. And a funny story about him is I think his last game, we were going to be losing. I think we were down 2 goals. And he took out his frustrations, just ran full steam, absolutely cleaned this guy out. And to be able to play basketball that season, that's how hard he took this guy out. But again, he belonged on a football field, but he was good on the soccer field as well.
This one is for Anthony Lamar. Coach, who do you want to call it? Do you want Ethan or Charles to call it?
Well, Ethan,
Sticking with Odd.
you got it.
All right. So, Charles, you got to redraft. You got one person down. And then
You got it.
all right. So
Hey, I'm sensing a pattern here.
so Charles, you got one more person to pick up here from your era.
Yeah. So I get to keep going. My next ain't Corey Burgoyne, so that sucks. I'm going to have to go with the man with the largest calf muscles of all time, John Smith.
John Smith.
John Smith.
He's a presence. He can distribute with the best of them. Good time, Smitty.
All right. So Ethan, you've got one more pick to make from your era.
But I ended up going with Corey just because he's so big and fast. I'm going to put probably, he might even be faster than Cody. Maybe the one person that's faster than Cody. Our boy, Carson Hartman.
The Black Stallion.
Wayne.
Wow.
Black Stallion.
All right. So everyone's made their first 6 picks. Before we get into the open draft here, I want to just touch on one thing. There seems to be one common theme from we got Corey Tibbs, we got Nick Tibbs, we got Dareplo. Coached a bunch of great goalies.
Yeah, and I being a goalkeeper myself, and that's how I came through. I said I have to surround our team with good goalkeeping. You can't have a decent team and then have a goalkeeper that from like 87, 88, all the way up through. I had Sean St. Peter. He was a great goalkeeper. We had Chad Boucher. Of just great goalkeeping, just from that aspect. And I mean, that's what we surrounded ourselves with. In good hands, and they filled in for us for the years that we needed them. So just fantastic. Is where it's at.
That in any goalkeeper drill, no goalie went harder than Coach Minz himself, man. You want to see fire, man.
That's my thing. That was my bag right there.
Well, he did that in middle school phys ed too when he was beating up on us in indoor soccer.
Yeah.
No
Hey,
mercy.
There was a couple other goalies too. So before that, there was Bruce Tebow, and then And then in the earlier years, Dana DeShane too. I mean,
Yeah.
he wasn't a technical guy, but in my scouting report, I heard it was balls to the wall all the time. And so there were some before Sean St. Peter didn't get picked up is too bad, because he was as good as any of them.
Oh, absolutely.
Tom
Yeah,
was unbelievable.
And you're right about those early guys. Those early guys, they would run right through the goalpost for you. They were obviously very good.
All right, so we got to get to the rest of our drafts here. So now we need a draft order.
Question first.
What was that?
Draft order.
Draft order. Charles tuned in last week. You guys are kind of familiar with this. So we're going to go from 4 to 1, Charles, right? So who's going to get the 4th pick here for the open draft era?
Hopefully not me again this week. With the 4th pick this week, we got Julian.
You sure that's not your handwriting?
With the 3rd pick, we're going to go with Charles.
Charlie, number 3.
And with the 2nd pick, we're going to go with Laughn. That's in yellow, so it's hard to see what that's one pick goes off the Lucas.
All right.
All
right. So you guys take draft. So to make clear on Charles, Ethan, and then Ethan, Charles, Laughn, Lucas, in that order here to fill out your roster. Anything goes at this point. So, some of these picks here, so we'll get to it with the 7th pick. Lucas, who are you going with? Open era.
I think I'm going to go with probably, arguably, the greatest athlete. Davis Brown. So if you're good enough to play at Brown, you're probably good enough to be the number 1 pick. So I'm going to go Tommy Pelletier with my first pick. Number 1.
All right. So that's a great pick right there. I mentioned played D1 soccer right there. So great pick. We're going to go to the next pick for Laughn, your 7th overall pick, but this is the open era.
The guy that scored 70 goals, 40 assists in high school, is an all New England player. Went on to play at USM. I'm going with Carl Labby.
Ooh, nice choice right there.
Great choice.
Curious, what kind of research did you do?
Again, I spoke to a number of different people. I actually spoke to Carl. I swear that Carl was the name on the top of the list, along with Tommy Pelletier. I mean, those were really the 2 guys from the 70s from the most.
All right.
And I played summer league. Do you remember? Anyway, out of South Portland, and Carl was on that team, and Carl was well into his 40s, and he was a machine. I mean, he's old, and like, man, this dude's in his 40s, and he was ridiculous. So, he was tough, no doubt about it.
All right. So with the 7th pick, Charles, who are you going with for your 7th overall pick?
So I reached out to Carl Labby yesterday, and he said somebody had beat me to the punch. So I'm like, oh, that's how it's going to be played. Opinion, Kerry Lagasse, Tom Pelletier, Phil Labby, Paul Parent, Chuck Guy, Richard Plord, Lance Martin, Rob Plord.
Holy shit!
2 hours worth of work last night, boy. Yes. I'm going to take a picture. We'll get this online for the viewers at home.
That's unbelievable.
I've heard the tale that he was a soccer player. In talking to him the other night, he said I was so good I used to pass to myself. I'm just gonna go with Phil Abbey.
Oh, right. I can't wait to see your big board. I can't wait to actually see that up close there. Definitely put the most work in.
Word, my friend.
I can see Lawn's competitive spirit coming out here. I don't think
All right, let's go. Can I tell one quick story? I went to Legs Labby. I called him. Legs sent me his list, and I'm going through the list. Laughn Berthiaume's not on the list. I'm like, Legs, you forgot Laughn.
See, I thought the same thing when I was going through it. I'm thinking, hey, we're all going to have to draft ourselves. It was a good thing that Lucas, the coach, doesn't have to worry about playing Lucas, the player.
I penciled myself in on all the lists. It's like everybody was too shy to say my name, so I just threw my name on their list for them.
Generous of you. All right.
unbelievable.
We got to keep it moving here. So we're gonna go to Ethan. Who are you gonna go with your 7 year?
I'm supposed to follow that.
Yeah,
That's,
I know.
yeah.
Charlie, this man. So, Coach, the names they brought up, some of these guys are before your time. I think all of them. Tom Pelletier, Carl Labby, Phil Labby. That might have been before your time. Steve Perro played for you.
Yes.
Right?
He had a lot of good scoring opportunities. He was just a solid, attitude, and that's what made that first year that he was actually on my varsity team my first year of coaching. Him and Chris Lozier and Charlie we scored all season. We were figuring it out that we were scoring one goal every 4 minutes, and it was because of guys like Perro and Lozier and Albert and Paul Marquis. Those were that was the front line back then, and that's the power this year that they had. They were really, really good.
Coach, do you have? Should we let Coach make his? Who would we have taken number one?
Carl Labby. Carl Labby was probably by far the one of the better players that ever came out of Fort Kent. I show you my list because I've got highlighted right down in yellow that these are guys for all these guys on the grads team. I played with Carl, I played with Tom, Phil Labby, Dennis Sear, Bert, the Chassis brothers, Kevin and Carl. I mean, times during their reign, and always came up short. And it was always for some crazy reason. One year, Lonnie knows this. They corner kicks. At the end of the day, they had the most corner kicks, won the state championship, and it happened to be Gorham that year.
That's the one banner in Gorham's gym that I hate.
You know, the Carl Labbies and the Tom Pelletiers. They were just solid players. Good soccer players. So that's who I'd go with. I would have gone with them for sure.
All right. So there's still a bunch of names. So back to Ethan for your 8th overall selection. Who you going with?
I got Charlie would be my number one choice. Don't let that go to your head, but I had to tapping to Steve to get some names. I don't know.
I don't know Raymond Bouchard.
That's a good pick.
That is a good pick. That is a good pick. I was running the lines during that era, and I didn't have him on my radar, but that's a good pick.
Is that the same guy that had a mustache?
I think everybody back then except Laughn had a mustache in fourth grade.
That's true.
He had six, he had 6 foot legs.
Had a beard and was buying beer in 6th grade, I think. If I remember correctly.
True.
Yeah, don't feel bad, Laughn. I'm 34 and I still can't grow a mustache. So
Yeah.
All right, we're going back to Charles with your 8th overall selection. You got a massive board to choose from here. Who are you going with?
What do you think it?
Steve Carroll and Raymond Bouchard. Raymond Bouchard or Boucher?
Thank you.
Bouchard.
Bouchard.
Oh, there's a lot of talent on the board, but for
Wow.
Okay.
Love it.
let's hear it, Coach Minzy. Feedback on Berthiaume.
We're still trying to fix the goals in Fort Kent from him running into him.
Derby time. All right. So
You'd tell Burby to go into the game, and he would tear off his pants, and that was before.
okay. Great pick, Charles. I like that. We're gonna go back to Laughn for your 8th pick. Who are you going with?
Okay, so this guy, when we played some men's league together, he was to the back. But all the stuff that I heard about him was just an unbelievable, fast, hard shot. Just could score goals and
Lord.
Good pick.
His name is almost on every one of these lists, so he must have been legit back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, Coach. Can you elaborate on that?
And he was always a scouting threat. Every time we used to play him, everything came out where you got to be cautious about Danford. He just not only did he have a huge amount of speed, like I was saying, he would close down real fast, and he had a really good strong foot. So scoring threat, speed.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go old school, early 80s, maybe late 70s. Good front. I think he might have actually been a better college player than a high school player. I might see sure attitude.
Oh.
Good athlete. A real quiet guy, and not much of a talker, but Mikey C was legit, big personality, and just like Mikey, I work 4 times a day still. So
You could probably still play today.
UMFK Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Good
Right.
player to him.
Legit player. He's a very good player.
Lucas, I'm surprised you didn't go Roy Michaud like your basketball draft.
Hey, Charlie, don't take my late picks, man. Don't give away my draft secrets.
Lucas, you got your selection coming up here.
Yeah, well, I gotta go. I don't think we have quite enough edge. I don't think we have, really. I mean, you're looking at me and Lozier. We need another skinny, arrogant little bastard. I'm going Paul Marquis. Wow. So between me, John Lozier, and Paul, we should be able to start enough fights that Corey, Richard Plord, and Bart Plord can finish. So
Wow.
try to get that good balance. You know?
What do you think? Is that a good balance right there?
He's got power. He's got boxing ability. He's got everything in there. Yeah. By the way, Paul Marquis has been my only player ever to score goals.
He tried about 100 of them.
He did. He made one.
All right, we're going back to Laughn with your 9th overall selection here. We're going to see if you're going
I didn't have to do much research for, but I do need some guys in the back. So this guy's a tough guy. I actually went to Europe with him on a soccer. But another just tough guy and somebody that's going to solidify the backs. Thurston Vizin.
Thurston Vizin, maybe the best name on the list so far too. And yeah, so I want to ask Coach this. So I kind of saw him nodding. It kind of seems like you kind of know who they're talking about before they bring him up. Or are you kind of mind reading it and you know where they're going with some of these picks?
Well, when they start talking about the who went to Europe during that year, just like when Brad went, but yeah, I knew Thurston and definitely it was one of those guys that would fly under the radar. You know, he'd play solid game after game after game, but he just never got the accolades. But he's definitely worthy of being on that team for sure. He was a good player.
All right, so Laughn finds some value here, like the number 9 pick. So moving along, we got Charles, your 9th overall selection here. Who are you going with?
Way before my time, but I'm excited to hear this guy's still available. I'm gonna have to go with Dennis.
Coach, you mentioned playing grad soccer with him. Is that correct?
Yeah, we played. Every one of these guys, all of the really what I call legends, Dennis Sear, Carl Labby, Tom Pelletier, even Bert Levesque. I mean, all these guys were really, really solid. So, yeah, they're just. Yeah, Dennis was an all not an All-American. He was an All New England player when he was in high school. So,
did you guys ever win the region or go to states, or like did you guys ever win a state title for grads?
Yeah, we won the state title in 1987.
Nice.
We end up playing Augusta for the winning championship.
Just
came down to penalty kicks, and yours truly had the winning save. So.
Nice.
I wish we had him, but I got the last one, and that's the only one that counted. So, but yeah, we ended up winning the states, but that was magical years playing with those guys. Hopefully, good goalkeeping. You had all kinds of the things that just make great teams, and I think we went undefeated year after year after year, and then finally won the states in '87. Varsity team, so they they got the benefits of that for sure.
All right.
I need to fill a forward spot. Got a couple choices here. I know no Noah Martin is killing it right now for the young bloods. He's a good pick, but I'm going with all over the field and just being a force. Jared McBride,
Oh, okay.
St. Francis.
Yep. Good pick.
St. Francis, well represented across the draft board here too. Ethan, we're going to stick with you with your 10th overall selection.
10th overall selection. I'm going to go with. I'm going to go back to my era. Actually, he's talented. He was a jokester. You need somebody on the team that's going to haze kids and be somebody that's going to prank people in the locker room and puts do some atomic sit-ups. I don't know if anybody ever goes in the locker room, but with the ass, I'm going to go with Jared Boucher for a defensive back.
Right.
Nice.
On the team, man.
Do we want to get into what an atomic sit-up is, or should we just skip over that?
No, we should
Yeah, let's
just
just
definitely
skip
go
over
by
All
that
right,
one.
cool. All right,
Yeah,
we're going to keep
over
moving.
that.
You think Jared
Charlito.
did that at Big O's summer party last summer?
The atomic sit-up.
It's like the one-arm push-up. It's a classic.
Oh, you're definitely gonna rip that jacket. Don't do it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm pretty surprised this fella's name was on quite a few lists, so I'm excited that he's still around. I need a big
Yeah.
All right, we'll ask the expert. Coach, is that accurate? Was he a sweeper?
Fielder, he could be definitely so. Doesn't matter where you put him. He was just a solid midfielder and goal scorer. He was very good at scoring goals. So
all right, maybe not defense, but still a solid pick.
oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I had him as my
Who gave you the wrong intel? Who told you he was a sweeper?
I just picture him as big body. Anytime somebody's 6'2", solid, I just picture him as a defender. So still before my time. But as you said,
Yep.
wow, nice.
Charles finds value with the bottom.
Value there, Charlie.
All right, great pick. Number 10 overall.
Charlie, you still have this guy all over your board too. Another old schooler. Although honestly, I feel like I could draft 20 players. There are so many good names here. But I'm going with Glenn Lamar.
Okay.
Oh, big time. Glenn Lamar.
Wow.
We got our first father-son
Great pick.
combination. We got
Glenn
Antoine and we got Glenn. What's the take on Glenn Lamar here?
Glenn used to come down to my practice. That was when Anthony was playing also, but he just had so much great insight. You know, he used to work on my players and showing the mechanics of how they can shoot harder, quicker, stronger, things like that. He volunteered and he did that. I don't know how many weeks out of the season. I know that he added a lot to our team. That's for sure.
All right.
He was an outstanding athlete. He actually was a pitcher in college, and he'd throw the most amazing forkball. I mean, he was he was a 3-star.
Yeah, that's what I'd heard about that. Yeah, you're right.
All right. Lucas going back around.
I'm gonna go a little younger. Kid with a great last name who got a state championship there, come from the Labby family. I'm gonna go Tom Levesque. I think Tom was pretty speedy, very well skilled, and kid who will be a nice addition to our squad.
Absolutely. Made so far the selection by Lucas. And Lucas, you
I
got
had
one
a
more
toss
pick.
up between Chris Logan and Tom Levesque. I was like, yeah, maybe I can sneak Tom next round. It's a nice pick, Lucas. It's a good one.
All right. So Lucas, you got one more pick here. What do you want here?
Yeah, I'm gonna go another one of our shy, quiet. I think
Got it.
Yeah, he's already picked.
He's already taken.
Yeah,
who
Lonnie's
got him?
got him.
Lonnie got him.
Ah, man, I fell asleep on that one. All right. Well, now,
I
now
think
I'm
you
gonna
sacrificed
go. Now I'm
your
really
pick.
gonna go. Same mindset. Now I'm really gonna sarcasm. Guy who, from what I understand, again, is a little older than me, but very good individual. Was a good doctor. Took good care of me. Had a very good career, late '80s. Mr. Charlie Albert. Charlie
Albert.
really plays.
Great
So
pick.
I'll take Charlie.
That's a super
Charlie
pick.
was the best.
And Coach, were you able to coach Charlie Albert? Was he one?
Leaning up against the goal. Terry Carpenter was leaning up against the goal. It was a really cold night. And Charlie, we were doing a shooting practice, and I don't know why Coach Carpenter decided to lean up against the goal, but Charlie unloaded a shot from outside the 18 and hit him so hard in the head. He never saw it coming. Hit him so hard in the head that it knocked him back about 6 feet. And for about 2 hours after that, he had a brine tattoo right on his forehead. And it was just a real funny story. That was the truth, but he just had an incredible shot. So Charlie,
Can you imagine that these guys were talking about playing with today's technology in a soccer ball, the magic that they would have created?
yeah,
What a difference.
Yeah, don't forget those soccer balls were all plastic panel, and at about 28 degrees during those practices, that thing was brick hard. So
Mhm.
it hit him pretty good. So.
All right, we're coming back to Lon. Your last pick here. Who you going with?
Yeah, before I get to that, I'm just going to say this. I remember those brine balls because when you're a freshman and you make the varsity team, you're in the wall at the end of practice when you're practicing free kicks. So I remember those goddamn brine balls. If you ever wanted to jump up into that starting team or show some value, you just had to take one. You couldn't move. If you duck, man, you're never getting off the bench.
You can't.
So
That's how we
yeah,
built
I'll also say this: some of these guys that are picked here at the end, Charlie, Paul, Chris Lozzi. I mean, it's just because none of them played with the team captains, or these guys would all be very, very high picks, I think.
Yep.
All right.
No doubt.
My last pick. Now we're going by position, so I need to go back to get a defender, and I played with this guy, solid, tough. Basketball teammate of mine as well. And again, when you can grow that mustache when you're in 4th and 5th grade, I mean, you're going to be a force out there. So I'm going with Brad Courier.
So Brad's been mentioned a lot on this podcast with some of the other guys. It's always about his facial hair, but Coach, what can you tell us about Brad Courier? Everyone wants to bring up the mustache, but talk to us about the player.
Yeah, that's all true. I mean, he 4th grade had to do a full shave, but as far as toughness, he was always solid, always, first to the ball. He always won the 50-50 ball. We always had a really good result with him. He kind of controlled and owned midfield. So it was good with him there for sure.
All right. So moving along in our draft, going to Big Bro Charlito, your last pick. You've got 1,000 names to choose from here.
I know. Oh my God, you're going to smash up right from me. I am going to go on a limb and go with a Mr. Bert Boucher.
Okay.
On my list.
We'll get 2 Bouchers in the draft today.
So Charles, real quick, just curious, what would you've done all this research, you got this big board. Do you even know what Bert Boucher's FIFA ranking would be? Do you even know what his rating would be? Or are you just guessing at this point?
All I've heard him tell many times is they did go to the state finals and they lost in corner kicks. So not many teams can say that. But he's played on a state championship team. So, I mean, he'll shut Jared down, hands down.
Yeah.
He's better than Jared.
I think he's the one that taught the atomic sit-up.
Bert is one guy that back in the day, I would love to go back and hang out with college or high school Bert. I think that would be a good time.
No doubt.
We're coming to Ethan here for the last pick. The last pick in the draft. The NFL draft calls him Mr. Irrelevant. Are you going to make it irrelevant? Are you going to make it a good pick? Are you going to go pick the last Bushi on the board to go get Casey?
No, we've done Casey dirty enough here in the last couple podcasts. Let's ease up on him for one day. Steve gave me another good name. I need to fill a left defensive back. That's my last position on the board here. He gave me another good name with Justin Marquis. He was a stopper. I don't feel right picking him because I've never seen him play. I don't even know who he is. So I'm not going to go that route. I'm going to go with a fella that I grew up with, one of my oldest friends. He stopped playing soccer sophomore year because he started working instead. He needed to make some money for the family. And he would have been somebody that I think would have been an absolute standout. He's just one of the most athletic kids I know. He's a big body. He was smart. He saw the field well. He was really good at basketball as well. Somebody that could play all over the field. Ben Bouchard. And I know Minzy will know this name because he repeatedly asked me to try to convince Ben to stay on the team and to keep playing and you get the rest of your life to work, play sports. But ultimately he chose the work life. But man, Ben Bouchard was probably one of the best soccer players I ever played with. I think he would be a perfect fit in our team.
Okay. So that's the last pick in the draft. We're going to do a couple things before we get up out of here. We got to pick a winner, but we also need to hear Coach Minzy's all-time team. And then we're going to go through that first. So I got a couple things planned here. We're going to go through Coach Minzy's all-time team. We're going to rattle out the team names that we just drafted, have them pick a winner. And then you guys are going to put the theory to the test here. Can a really great coach any team to victory? You guys are going to pick a team for Coach Minzy, and we'll see if he could actually coach that team to victory. So that's how we're going to close it out. So
Shit.
That's coming up. So first things first, I want to go through Coach Minzy's all-time team here. And I'm sure ears are percolating right now. I know these guys are probably percolating. Charles is nervous as hell right now. He's sweating through his suit. Go ahead. You can take the jacket off at this point, Charles.
Oh, loosen up the collar, Charlie.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor.
Yeah. So, Coach Minzy, the floor is yours. We want to hear your all-time Fort Kent team. Guys, do we want to keep to the players he coached, or can it be all-time Fort Kent? What do you guys think?
His
Coach.
call.
Coached.
Yeah, what I did is I put together during my era.
Okay, we'll go with that.
So I went with my era, and I'll be right up in front and honest with you. If I had if I could have gone way back, I definitely would have included the Carl Labbies, Tom Pelletiers, but I didn't. I put together just what I had. So starting out of the back, I went with Nick Thibodeau in the goal.
Wow.
I went with Charlie Bard for sweeping.
Charlie.
And I went with Travis Delisle, and believe it or not, I put Ethan Raymond back on my right back.
Wow. All right. So I got a couple questions before we proceed here. So Travis Delisle was not a name picked by anybody else. What was it about Travis that makes your all-time team here? Travis
Delisle, I don't know if the guys who played with him, but he was a Steve Jalbert. He was big, tall, strong, out of the air, winning 50-50 balls. His winning attitude, I think his team attitude was something that he just did not want to be denied. And I always really appreciated that as a coach, that, somebody just was put their head down and they would get the job done no matter what you wanted. So I put Travis in there as a back just because he was a strong defender.
Real quick, also curious, why'd you put Ethan out back? And Ethan, are you upset with being demoted to defense? I mean, I feel like you want to be up front. What's going on here?
Not at all. I'm honored to be on one of Minzy's teams, man.
All right, so Coach, what's the thought process with moving Ethan out back?
Well, because usually in the early years, you went with big, strong, sometimes slower players that they would win the ball or be able to play the ball big time up the field. And I decided if I was going to go with a fantasy team, I'd want fast, skilled players coming out of the backfield that could overlap and get up forward and score. And Ethan was obviously a good goal scorer. So being able to have that speed in the back really made a big difference putting together.
I did spend a lot of time in the 4-4-2 overlapping wing back there. So
right. So
and then real quick, want to touch on Charles. Charles, you must be fucking thrilled right now to me. I can see the tears coming out of your eyes right now.
I'm happy about that, but Ethan playing defense scares the fuck out of me, man. I'm gonna have to pick up so much slack. Me and Travis are gonna be rocking dude up. Ethan's gonna be like, "What do I do?
No, I'm definitely gonna be. I'll definitely be hanging up there, trying to score as many goals as I can, and sprinting back on defense for sure.
And then Charles, are you okay with keeping Travis in line back there too?
Oh, absolutely. I never played soccer with him, but I'm sure that we get along just fine. And I'm very surprised with the Nick Tibbs pick. That's a huge honor for my goalkeeper. Nick and I played 6 years together, maybe 7. So very honored to have my keeper in there too. Good pick, man.
Yeah, and Coach,
Tibbs is unreal.
What was the thought process
keeper.
of going with Tibbs? We mentioned all the great goalkeepers you had. What was it about Nick?
I think just that era was magical for us, really. I think we had a lot of great wins. And I kind of took Nick under my belt. We went to camps early. He went to USM camps, went to Colby. He was just a sponge. He really absorbed everything that was happening and became really developed into a great goalkeeper. So was his brother, Corey. He watched people like Sean St. Peter and Chad Bushy. He was just, I think he was a observer of the game and put it into his own. He became just a real classy goalkeeper. And I thought he would be a great keeper to start us off for our fantasy team.
All right.
And it's because Minz talked to Carla and Gary, and that's their favorite son. So they people.
That's true. That's all true.
All right, we're gonna keep the picks moving here. I think Lucas and Lon are nervously sitting there like, did I make the team too? I mean, the other two team captains have been picked off the board. You guys got to be sitting there just shitting bricks right now. So we're gonna see what Coach has in mind for the rest of his picks here.
Well, they gotta know that they're on the team, so that away right away. Steve Jalbert out of the stopper back position. I don't think there's anybody that played that position quite well as he did. Just his ability to get up and back and all over the field, and really incredible about playing. The big thing that I really liked in the middle of the field was like players that could get up and win headers, and especially in hitting targets or scoring goals or redirecting. And Jalbert was really good at that. So I put him at my stopper back. The two midfielders that now I'm setting up in a 4-4-2. My two midfielders were Chris Lozier and Bart Plourde. Those two guys were workhorses. Some of you probably didn't know Chris or didn't play with Chris, but he was my leading goal scorer in 87-88. He basically won the game of our semifinal game down in Camden Rockport. Had a hat trick and just kind of right from the very start, 14 seconds into the game, scored a goal. Just his ability to be all over the field. He was my penalty kick taker, just like Lonnie was. So that I went with him, and Bart was obviously, everybody knows Bart. He was a strong, solid player. Put him in the midfield. Then on the two outside wings, I went with Lucas on the right and Paul Marquis, Ryan Martin on the left. And the reason I put Ryan Martin in there is because of his throw-in ability. And, he was obviously a good goal scorer too. But Lucas and Johnny Lozier could play that right wing. Paul Marquis, Ryan could play the left wing. And then I went with Laughn Berthiaume and Adrian Marquis as my two strikers. I thought that would be there's no weakness on any part of the field. We're quick, we're fast, out of the backs, solid in the midfield, good goalkeeping, score a million goals. So that's basically my fantasy team of 11. I do want to tell you though, I had like 27 names that I could have put here, and not lose a step. We could have substituted anyone. We just had that many good players. But that was my basic 11 right there. Starting 11.
Charlie.
Yep.
Charlie, you're going to have a lot of action, though, because you got Lucas and Paul Marquis on the outside mids. They're not coming back to help you.
Not at all. And Ethan on top of that. Holy crap.
Yeah, you get me up there cherry picking for sure.
So let's give Coach Minz all-time favorite player. Do you have a single choice?
All time?
Oh, wow.
Oh, no.
All time?
No.
You gonna do that to him?
No. No
Just
way.
pick me. Make it easy. Just pick me, Coach. Pick me, Coach.
That's ruthless, Charlie.
I'll tell you, every single year held something magical about it. All the years that I coached, and I could probably I could give you probably the minute and the time and what they were wearing and everything else about each one of those seasons. They were all really, really good.
Best team. Who do you feel was top to bottom, 1 through 11, the best team you ever coached? It's tough because Lonnie's team was great. Obviously Charlie won. We were number 1. Obviously Charlie and I's team fell apart. A little unlucky. I'm not going to go there, but that first team you had. What do you think is top to bottom? Do you think the best team or the team that had the most potential out of all of them that you had?
Now, are you asking me the teams that you picked? What's the best one, or the team that?
No. Just like the '89 team, the '84 team, '97 team. Like what turns out as top to bottom was probably that I had. I mean, obviously the first group, the Paul Marquis, Charlie Albert, Chris Lozier. I mean, that's a good team. Lon's team was fantastic. What would you say? What do you think is your best?
I don't know. That's a real tough one. I mean, I can name you all 5 that we went to the Eastern Maine Championship, and obviously we didn't win it, but all 5 of those years, 88, 93, 95, all of them, every one of those teams were, in my mind, probably we brought it up to a team that I thought was the best team then. And then 2 or 3 years later, we'd have another team that was just awesome. So it's tough for me to pick one overall team. And I'm going to renege on that and just say probably the 5 years that we went to the Eastern Maine Championship were the 5 best teams that I had.
And you guys accept that? You guys okay with that?
Gotta let the accolades speak for themselves.
I played on 3 of those
sense.
teams. And the funny part is the 3 teams that I played on that we went to the Eastern Maine final, I wouldn't be able to say which was the best team either.
Yeah, it's tough because everybody has their own. You remember the game down in Ellsworth, Lonnie? Were you that game where Doug Taggart hit the goalpost and knocked it back about 3 feet?
Yeah.
Yeah, he hit us, and that was that. That
get picked tonight.
What's that?
Charles, what did you say, Charles? We lose
No,
Charles.
no.
Taggart
Canadian will have
didn't
fire.
get brought up tonight. He was on the list.
Doug Taggart.
Taggart didn't get picked.
Yeah, he's strong workhorse. But anyway,
Yeah, he was on my list too, actually. That Eric gave me.
Yeah,
Doug
those 5 years were, incredible for me. So I would have to go with. I just can't pick one of them because each one had its own merits.
That's fair enough, but we've got to pick a winner for tonight here. So we got to pick a winner when it comes to these fantasy teams, and what better guy to pick than the coach himself. So we're going to run through these teams real quick.
Okay.
And then we're going to do something fun before we get up out of here. So real quick recap for Team Laughn. We got Chad Boucher, Steve Jalbert, Adrian Marquis, Tim Desjardins, Aaron Berthiaume, Ben Collins, Carl Labby, Danford Plord, Thurston Vizin, Glenn Lamar, Brad Courier. Solid work.
That's a tough team.
From an experienced coach. He knows how to put together a team.
That's Laughn.
Team Lucas. We got Brad Saucier, Corey Tibbs, Bart Plord, Ryan Martin, Richard Plord, John Lozier, Tom Pelletier, Mike Charette, Paul Marquis, Tom Levesque, and Charlie Albert. So just a ton of great names as we run through this here. Team Charlito. We got Cody Daigle, Kurt Levac, Aaron Willett, Nick Tibbs, John Smith, Phil Labby, Burby Time, Dennis Sear, Chris Lozier, and Bert Boucher. And then finally for Team Ethan, we've got JJ Panette, Derek Plord, Carlos Martinez, Antoine Lamar, Corey Burgoyne, Carson Hartman, Steve Perro, Raymond Bouchard, Jared McBride, Jared Boucher, and Ben Bouchard. So, Coach, you got to pick a winner out of those four teams.
Okay.
Who's going to win the fantasy tournament here?
Okay, I'm gonna narrow it right down. Give me Lucas's and Lonnie's team again.
All right, Lucas and Laughn. For Team Laughn, we got Chad Boucher, Steve Jalbert, Adrian Marquis, Tim Desjardins, Aaron Berthiaume, Ben Collins, Carl Labby, Danford Plord, Thurston Vizin, Glenn Lamar, and Brad Courier. That was Team Laughn.
Okay.
Team Lucas, we got Brad Saucier, Corey Tibbs, Bart Plord, Ryan Martin, Richard Plord, John Lozier, Tom Pelletier, Mike Charette, Paul Marquis, Tom Levac, and the doctor, Charlie Albert.
Tough.
You ready?
Oh, we're all sitting here. We're ready to go.
We're ready.
We want to know.
Looking at both of these, really, really, really close. They're both really close, but I would give Lonnie's team just a little bit of an edge, just because of the strength of character.
That's 2 weeks in a row.
That's 2 in a row. Hey Tommy, let's stop inviting Laughn to this. We've had a good run with him.
If you had picked Lucas's team, then I was going to ask, what if the coaches were playing?
What if the coaches were playing?
Yeah, so what if Lucas played for Team Lucas and Laughn played for Team Laughn?
Yeah.
Lucas drops the fourth.
I didn't have to go there. I didn't have to go there.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the edge, Lonnie. I'll give you the edge.
Totally different.
So, what was it about? What was it about Team Laughn? What was it about Team Laughn that gives him the edge?
Well, I think he had a great combination of the legend players that were really good at that time, and then all the speed and the power from the younger generations that were not only goal scorers, but they were solid at each one of their positions. I think that what probably just gave it a little bit of an edge.
Is that what gave him the edge, or is it the phone calls that he made to you earlier this week that gave him the edge here?
That $50 check. That was the
Canadian money
comes out. Look at that.
No, it had nothing to do with that. I just when you called off a few of the players, especially, I mean, you can't say enough about the guys that were before I was coaching, but those players added on to anybody's team really are going to make a normal team into a state championship team. So I think that's what kind of did it for me.
And I know for Charles and Ethan, they don't even care that they weren't even in the final two. They're just happy they made your all-time team. Those guys are tearing up over there. They're just so proud. Charlie's going to run upstairs and tell Amanda here after this is done. He can't wait to run upstairs. He's so happy right now. All right.
Coach might have thrown me a bone, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it wasn't because you guys are on the program. And you can ask my wife about this. After Lonnie called me, I sat down and I wrote this out and I thought about it and I kept writing out and I'd scratch off things and I had a list of about 50 and I tried to narrow it down. So to get down to that 11 guys is just because I feel fortunate that I've had a chance to coach many, many really good soccer players. So
Absolutely.
it was really tough for me. So to put those guys together, it wasn't a favor for anyone. It was just what I really felt.
It was
like
really an unfair question too. That's one of the toughest questions to answer. Right
That
there.
is.
Yeah.
All right.
Tell you what, that team is winning state championships right there, though.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we get up out of here, we're going to do something fun. So they always say, a great coach can coach anybody to victory. A great coach can impose his will and his style and turn any team into champions. So Charlie's got a shit ton of names on his board, but what we're going to do here is you guys are going to draft Coach Minzy a team real quick of straight ringers, and we'll see if Coach Minzy could coach this team to a playoff berth. So we're just going to go in order. We'll start with Laughn. We'll go Laughn, Lucas, Charles, Ethan until we get 11 guys. Straight ringers. Question is, could Coach Minzy coach this team to a playoff berth? Laughn, who are you giving first ringer?
Can I take somebody and put them in a position?
Yeah, do whatever you want. I'm open to whatever here.
All right, so I'm gonna go in the goal. Lucas Levesque.
Oh,
Hey, you know what? You might get over there that I'll tell you that much.
Lucas, are you even capable? Are you even capable of playing goal or what?
My hands are money.
All right, Luke,
Yeah. Jumping
good eye
and
hands.
doing all
right.
anything athletic.
Minz is already like, oh shit. Fuck, I got. All right, Lucas, who are you gonna draft?
Look, I'm gonna tell a quick little story on this one here. This guy was a pretty good player, had some speed to him, had a wall of grass. But this guy, so it's my first varsity experience. We're playing Caribou. Caribou has this kid who's just a little bit on the meathead side. He'd punch himself and he'd do all sorts of stuff. Coach, I don't know if you remember Eddie Cowan. Do you remember Eddie Cowan from Caribou?
I know that name.
I was a little off, and I was petrified. I was like, I'm like 95 pounds on a good day. And I'm like, man, this guy's crazy. Like he's gonna break me out there. And I go over and I remember like, man, there's something wrong with this guy. And Kenny Marquis goes, watch this. And he wrecks this kid. And he gets up and he kind of starts laughing to himself. And the guy says something to him. And next thing you know, the guy gets the ball again. And Kenny comes in again and wrecks him again. And but Kenny was just one of those guys. Kenny was a good player. Kenny was one of those guys that would just always go after the biggest guy on the field and just screw with him, just for the simple fact of, seeing if he can get in his head and pick a fight and everything else. But we give you Kenny can do some, but give you a little bit of toughness as well.
All right. So we're gonna go to Charlito. Who are you gonna give Coach Minzy here?
I'm going to go with the only professional athlete maybe to come out of Fort Kent. He's a lefty. He's a professional wrestler. I'm going to go with Vaughn Taggart.
A great one.
Okay. All right.
Got to get Vaughn on the podcast.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, Ethan, who are you going with?
He's got some speed. He's got a great soccer IQ. But he's going to be a challenge up front. At forward, I'm going with Charles Bard.
Oh boy,
That's tough
Charles,
on corner kick.
Charles, you're okay with that though, Charles? Yeah, that's how you started off your career, right? Back in the day, you were a striker.
One of the best goal scorers I know. Oh, here's the story how I went from offense to defense. Coach Minz needed a defender freshman year. Anyone want to play defense? I'm like, yeah, I'm a striker. I'll play D. Boom. The rest is history. Thanks, Minz.
We're going back to the top.
Year was, and everybody was still 5'5".
We'll go back to the top. So you guys will each make 3 picks for men. So Laughn, back to you.
All right, so Lucas is going to need a little bit of help back there, and so he's going to need a sweeper that is tough. Not only is tough, but looks tough. So we're going with Big Red Tyler Berthiaume.
Holy shit. The muscle.
Hey, you better hope the sun's not out because that's going to burn his skin. He's not going to be able to play that well.
Oh, fuck.
So, Coach, how are you feeling after the first 5 picks? Are you confident with this team? Can you coach this team to victory so far, or what?
I don't know, kind of weak in the goal. I don't know. The rest I can handle.
All right, so we're going back to where we at? Lucas?
Yeah, this guy primarily played center back through the years, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put him up front. I'm going to make him shave his back, but I think Bert Raymond could be a pretty good forward for you. Once we lose
Bert Raymond.
15 pounds of hair.
Oh.
So I'm going to go Adams himself, Bert Raymond, up front.
Up front, okay. Charlie, we're back to you here.
Bert Raymond was one of my brother's picks too.
The key to success is having a strong keeper, sweeper, and a stopper. So with Lucas and Tyler, I need a speedster at the stopper. I'm going to go with Casey Bushi. He'll be marking people.
Took my pick.
Oh, shit.
In those
All right.
fluorescent cleats, I think he's going to get the job done.
Dream team
Oh,
right
fuck.
here. Ethan, we're back to you.
Well, he took my pick. Let's see. Who am I going to go with? You know what? I'm going to go with, what do we need for positions right now?
I lost.
What's
Right?
open for
We got a
positions?
goalie, we got a sweeper, we got a stopper, we got a striker, we got Bert Raymond up front. So I mean, we got a couple more positions to fill in here. I don't know where Lucas, where'd you put Kenny?
Kenny can play out on the flank. Give him some speed out on the wing.
You need an enforcer. You need an enforcer out there. You need somebody that's going to be able to throw a shoulder into some people. You know, you don't really have anybody out there that's too big right now. We need Dustin Neto on this team.
Dustin Neto, great pick. Duddy on the team. This is good. We're going back to line, so you guys each get one more pick here for
Okay,
for
so-
Coach Minzy's
So
team.
between Lucas and Tyler out back, somebody's got to be able to take goal kicks. Neither one of them can kick it very far, and so I had this guy that was a teammate of mine. He was my older brother's class, and you don't get nicknamed Thunderfoot for nothing. We're going Thunderfoot Paul Plord.
All poured. Huh?
Thunderfoot.
With all the speed.
Hey, he had like size 14 feet. I mean, honest to God, he'd kick a ball, and again, you know, you're in practice and you're doing those drills and you're running at the ball, and he's going kickball style. You're getting out of the way.
All right.
Appropriately named Thunderfoot.
So we're gonna go back to Lucas here. Before we do, though, we got our first shout out for somebody watching live right now. We got to shout out Steve Perro, who said him and his wife are laughing their asses off right now. So shout out to Steve Perro for tuning in live and watching Big Time Live here. So we're going back to Lucas. One more pick for you.
I'm going to give an under the radar guy who many people didn't realize was actually a pretty decent player. I guess he had quite the toe kick, but believe it or not, had some wheels. I'm going to go the legend of Eagle Lake, Al Boutot. You throw big Al Boutot out on the flank. That guy's going to do some damage. So I'm going to give my boy Al some. You know, he coached the Eagle Lake Wrecking Crew up there, middle school, all those years. He's not quite as legendary as Robbie Neto, but believe it or not,
Wow. Things are shaping up great. This might beat Laughn's team that he actually drafted here. So we're going back to Charles. Charles, what you got?
What position's the Lester? Because Albuta was my pick. What's left?
I mean, at this point, you can kind of just fill them in wherever you want. I think our defense is shored up. Maybe one more person up front.
I got to go the utility player, the Swiss Army knife of basketball and soccer, for Kent legend, Terry Rio.
Holy shit.
You can't go wrong with Terry.
No, never go wrong there. So, Ethan, you get one more pick. This is going to be our first person off the bench to come in and give Coach Minzy's team a lift here. Who are you going with?
I mean, he needs some fucking talent on the team, for one thing. I'm gonna actually give him somebody he can work with. I'm gonna give him his daughter, Meg Minzy. He needs some help.
All right.
She should have been a starter.
Yes, so Coach, where does Megan fit in with this team we just drafted for you here?
Probably on his all-time team.
Yeah, that's probably on my all-time team. That's for sure. Way above everybody else mentioned so far.
Yeah. I got a story about her. I can't remember where we were. Shit. I think it was one of our longer road trips, so somewhere in the Bangor area. I think John Bapst. And it was one of those trips where it was the boys varsity, girls varsity. And she had 2 PKs that game. The first one, she put it left pocket, perfectly placed. And I mean, usually when you get your second PK, you think maybe I'll switch it up a bit because the goalie might be on to me. She went right back to the left pocket, but even cut it a little closer and kissed it off the friggin' post. I've never seen somebody with so much ball control. It was unbelievable. Right off the post.
I still remember that game.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So, Coach, I'm curious. This team we just drafted for you, where do they rank with some of the teams you coached? Can you coach these guys to a playoff berth?
Okay, middle school or primary?
All time.
And they could make it in Class C.
Maybe Ashland JVs. we could possibly go 500 with them.
I like it. Optimism right there. So we're coming up on the end of the episode here. So I'm going to give our guys one last chance to tell either a Minzy story or anything they want before we get up out of here. We're coming up on actually 2 hours. 2 hours flew by. I don't know about you guys, but we're coming up on 2 hours here. Time flies when you're having fun, but we're going to give you guys one last chance to say something. It could be about Coach. It could just be about your soccer days, but I'll give you guys the floor. We get up out of here, starting with the winner of tonight's fantasy draft, Laughn.
Yeah, I'd love to have a story just to roast men's, but really it's just going to be I mentioned earlier I played on 3 teams that went to the Eastern Maine final, and as I got older and older and older, I wanted to be that guy on the team to bring a state championship home. Being so close so many times, I knew he had been that close more often than I was. And as a player, wanting it so much for somebody else, it wasn't like I only wanted it for myself. I wanted it for him. But that was the leadership and the team chemistry, the team culture, all those things that as a coach I've grown up and realized that are important. I mean, those are things that I had early. I had great leaders, great mentors, and I appreciate everything you did for me.
Thank you, Lonnie. That means a lot. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Coach, I know they asked the question earlier, but can we say, is Lonnie your favorite? I mean, with him winning tonight, with you just appreciating what he said, is Lonnie your favorite? I mean, it's okay if you want to say it.
I'll tell the same thing I tell my daughters. I have no favorite.
I got the text he just sent me.
We're going to go on to Lucas here. Lucas, your chance to close things out here. What are your final thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'll echo that sentiment that Lonnie said. For us going through, they had come so many teams before us had come so close, and we knew if things bounced our way, we had a good chance. And the win it for men's was definitely real, and that was something that like Lon talked about is when you care so much to win it for somebody else, that's a rare thing, especially in coaching. And that was how much respect we all had for playing for Coach Minzy and for the program and for the history of every, of all the guys that we played before. So, I know for me, Lawn's group was kind of our generation, and Lawn's group before him was Aaron and his friends, and before that it was the Paul and Charlie and Chris Lozier. So there's just so many generations and so much rich history with that. But we all just wanted to bring home a state title for Fort Kent, and it's glad that it eventually happened. But switching gears, end on a funny story. Lon talked about wrecking people in middle school phys ed. I'll never forget. Minz was cutting the ball and slicing and dicing in phys ed class, and he stepped and he kind of lost his balance and went down. And Bradley Volunteer was like pointing at him and laughing. And 30 seconds later, Bradley got it. Next thing you know, Minz comes in and just whacks him. And Bragg is flying. I mean, he's got grass stains. He's got like dirt coming out of his mouth. I think his nose is bleeding and stuff. And we're all like, last time you laugh at Minz, Brad, And so I think Bradley learned his lesson not to laugh at Coach Minz, because pretty soon it's going to be him eating dirt. So. But that was just the competitiveness. We love that. That's something we fed off, and we can all look back. All four of us can look back and enjoy the times we spent. And Coach, we really appreciate everything you did for us.
Yeah, thank you. It was magical. I will tell you that right now.
Yeah, Coach. My last question for you in regards to Lucas. I know he talks about the competitive nature and the competitive spirit that you kind of built your programs around. Did you ever get just frustrated with Lucas and his lack of effort to get back on defense and stuff like that? Did you ever were you ever just like, God damn it, Lucas?
There used to be every game you'd hear this god awful scream coming from the side of our bench, and it would be, "Get back!" And it was always towards Lucas, So, that's what he thought his name was for the longest time, was Get Back. But
Coach, I thought we were playing a 4-3-3. You didn't tell me I was the outside mid in the 4-4-2. So.
Yeah, that's your new position.
So I would keep you at keeper so you don't have to get back.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm still gonna go. I'm still gonna cherry pick.
Saving balls like this.
Oh, shoot.
All right, we're gonna get to Big Bro Charles here. Charles, I mean, it looks like you're ready to go to church right now. I'm pretty sure you're ready to preach here your love for Coach Minzy. What are your final thoughts before we get up out of here?
Oh, God.
When I think back, the warm-up tape, that was epic. Just the energy that brought to the field. The circle before you take the field, bring it in here, the huddle. Minz always led that huddle. It was fired up. But really, when I think about it, I'm confident in my skills. But when I look back at this list, I don't even belong in this list. Like, this is a group of athletes that have run through Fort Kent. I'm not on that level. There's a lot of pride. It's hard being away from home because my daughters will never understand like hometown pride, the respect that was just generated during that era. I don't belong with Lucas and Lon. Like, they're in a class of their own. I don't belong with Coach Minz. So much pride, a lot of hard work. Happy to be part of this podcast, just as my brother's plus one, basically. So, Coach Minz, Lon, Lucas, Ethan, you're some good people. This is good, man. This is great. I love it. One love to everyone.
Thank you, Charlie. That was really nice.
Coach Vince, can we make Charles feel better before we get out of here? Does he belong on that list?
No, Charles belongs not only on that list, but he should put his name near the top of that list, because he earned every single bit that he played. And I said it right from the very start. Matter of fact, I remember lining those guys up in middle school when they were in 8th grade, and we had just graduated, probably 15 seniors. And I told them, I said, if you guys commit and you play strong, you're going to play both the JV level and you're going to play the varsity level. And by the time you're juniors, you're going to be in the Eastern Maine Championship and state final. And Charles never looked back, and he became a starter early, and he earned his spot. Nobody gave it to him. He deserves that number one spot. He's a good player.
Thank you, Coach. Nice words.
Charlie's full of shit. He's not on the list. I saw your list, Charles. You wrote your name first.
It's all top of the list on every one of them.
And real quick before we get about, I gotta show my big brother some love. So I just happened to be Googling Fort Kent soccer to try to get some information prior to this episode, and I went on Bangor Daily News and I just Googled or I searched Fort Kent soccer, and there was an article on there. I think it was your sophomore year, the game that Minzy talked about, the Orno game, and all the offside traps you set. The article is still on Bangor Daily News. It's in the paper. People can find that. Shout out to Big Bro, my man right there.
That was awesome.
Hey.
And Charles, real quick, what was your nickname in high school?
Puffball the sweeper.
All that golden, all those big golden locks. Charlito,
Charlito, Fort Kent's finest.
My guy.
Life is good, my friends. Good times.
All right. And Mr. Big Time also. The reason why it's called Big Time. Shout out to Charles. We're going to move on to Ethan. Ethan, your final thoughts before we get up out of here.
Oh, man, honestly, I can't think of a teacher or coach that had a bigger impact on what it meant to be a leader and just instilling the camaraderie with your peers and everything. It's when you say play for men's, it's a real thing. Like you want to win for yourself, but it was like when you played for men's, you just wanted that success. You wanted to play for men's. You wanted to win for men's. And I can't think of a better instance when I think we were down at home 2-0 to Van Buren of all teams. You never want to lose to Van Buren, especially at home. And I had a PK and I was lining the ball up. I stepped back and I was about to kick, and Minzy yells. He says, "Ethan, fucking bury it." And I'm like, trust me, Minz, the last thing I want to do is miss this PK right now. So, and I know I did bury it, but we ended up coming back and winning 3-2. And I remember at the end of the game, Minz was like, he had us huddled up and he says, "Guys, you played your asses off. You had me really worried there for a second. Don't ever fucking do that again." But it was so true. It's all we wanted to do was win for men's, and you really taught us what it meant to be a leader and to appreciate our teammates and to appreciate each other. So hats off to you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. So before we get up out of here, we're going to let Minz take the floor, but I think I didn't get a chance to play for Coach Minz, but I had him as a phys ed teacher. I had him as a middle school basketball coach, just a great mentor that touched the lives of a lot of individuals just in Fort Kent in general. So shout out to Coach Minz. We've been wanting to get him on the podcast for so long. We went for 2 hours. We might have a spinoff and do a solo episode with Coach Minz. We're going to try to work that and maybe try to work that into getting Megan on, because Megan deserves an episode in her own right, as Ethan highlighted. So just a talented coach, a talented father, a talented teacher. So thank you to Coach Minz. But before we get up out of here, Coach Minz, the floor is yours. You can say the last words before we get up out of here.
Well, I was kind of skeptical about what was going to happen here, but I have enjoyed, like you said, 2 hours have gone by, and it's just been, I didn't even notice it. It was almost like it has been 15 minutes. It's been to recap and to rejoin all those years and those memories. Those were, for me, my coaching years in Fort Kent were probably the best and the most magical years that I can remember. And I mean, we've gone through a lot of years and genres together. When kids were just little, coming up and watching the older guys playing at Fort Kent and just emulating, like, I want to be there. I want to play like that. And that was what it was like for me. When I came in, there were just great players, and I just wanted to keep going with that whole aspect. And to be able to have a cast of characters and players like that are here tonight, and all of the guys that I've coached over the years, have each and every one of them have had an individual impact on me. I can still vividly remember a lot of things about games, special things, snapshots from all the years, and it's just because of all of your hard work and all of your what you've done for not only for me but for the Fort Kent soccer program. I remember one year we had 65 players going out for soccer. We had like 30 on the JV team. It was just unbelievable, and people just wanted to play soccer. And it was, I was just like, those are the best years that I've ever had. So I wanted to thank you. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for letting me coach you guys. I think it was perfect. So And again, some other time.
I like it. So, Coach, does this mean you're going to do a follow up? We're going to get a solo podcast with just yourself and tell your story?
Absolutely. I'd love to. That would be great.
Awesome.
Anytime
and-
you like.
That's
And
awesome.
real
You
quick,
realize that you just had Laughn Berthiaume, Lucas Levesque, Charles Bard, and Ethan Raymond silent for 4 minutes. We just had this. We just respect you, man. We didn't speak. We listened.
yeah.
So much
I-
It's hard to do.
Actually, I want to kind of give a teaser as to what the solo podcast would be like. But so before we get out of here, and I just checked the numbers. Hey guys, I think before we went online, I asked what's the over under for viewers we're going to get. I said 12. We got 18 right now. We got 18 live, so we're doing something
Hey.
right. But I bet you that the
18.
follow up numbers are going to be huge. But real quick, my little teaser for the Coach Minzy solo podcast. Everyone knows you for Adidas suits and Samba shoes. What was the whole thought process behind the wardrobe? What went into it? I mean, that's just as legendary as your coaching style itself is your wardrobe. So what went into your wardrobe?
Yeah.
Don't forget the Oakley sunglasses.
Oakley sunglasses.
Yeah. My wife put together my whole ensemble, so I didn't take any credit for that. But no, it was basically that all came from soccer camps. Everything from I watched other coaches, what they had and what they were wearing, and a lot of that came from there. Early years was a lot of coaches coaching around the state and what they were wearing. That's basically what I chose myself. So
I like it.
that was it.
I got one more question for the guys before we get up out of here. We used to do this early on. Like Laughn was season 1, Ethan was season 1, Charlie was season 1. We always asked this question, and Charlie just kind of triggered this question here. So I'll go around the room. Charles, what were you drinking tonight for tonight's episode?
Wow. I had vodka tonic in this one. I had coffee brandy in this one. And a clear whiskey on the rocks on this one. Who's next?
Ethan, what were you? What was your drink of choice tonight?
I'm a Scotch guy. I was drinking out of this bottle of Glenfiddich right here.
Oh man, high
I
class.
like
Got about half of it gone.
Lucas, what was your drink of choice tonight?
I just stuck with Modelo with the coronavirus.
I almost had
I
Modelo,
switched
too.
gears with the Mexican beverages and rolled with Modelo.
Laughn, can you say? I mean, I know you got an image to protect. You're a teacher. You're
Oh,
a coach.
that's okay. I'm gonna go out on a limb. Fran used to drink the Natty Lights, and I've stuck in the Natty Light family. I'm with the Natty Light seltzer tonight.
There you go.
And Coach, do you care to
Hey.
share what you were sipping on tonight, or do you want to pass on that?
No, local brewery down here, Shipyard Brewing. I had a couple of summer ales.
Nice, great choices all
Little
around.
cheers and send this out, Tom. Cheers to
What's
all.
that?
Little cheers for everyone and send this out, brother.
All right, little cheers to everyone can put their glasses up. Thank you for everyone who tuned in to the very first live episode of Big Time the podcast. I think we're on to something here. We're having a good time with these videos, with these live videos. Our cast of characters. I think we could very easily do a second episode with the same cast and crew. So we'll see what's next. I think we're going to try to go weekly with this. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you to Coach Minzy for coming in and giving his stuff as well. This has been by far at the top of the list of episodes that we've done here on Big Time. So thank you for everyone for listening. Thank you to WFK TV, Channel 4 in Fort Kent, Maine, for getting us out live through their channels as well. Tune in next week for next week's episode. But for now, that's it. You guys have a good night. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Take care,
guys.
everybody. See you guys.
Cheers.
I'm still here.